So a lot of people have shown appreciation for the video about why I left AAA, but I get even more questions about how I got into AAA in the first place. I feel like it's important to understand the path that I took to get to where I did. But if you just want the climax and no romance, the links to them are down below. They go over the different steps or parts of this process. Not real fans. It's actually my wife's. So here's a story of how I landed my job in the AAA industry as an environment artist. Now keep in mind, this isn't a how-to guide or anything like that. One person's success isn't measurable to others. This is just my personal experience, and as with all videos, it's really meant as a general information for the masses to consume. You keep what resonates with you, and the rest just discard and let it be. How we got here has a lot to do with my passion in games and how that started. My journey into game development probably started when I was about 10, when I built my first computer with my dad from spare parts. Now, computer tech was growing fast, and we had lots of random parts lying around. It was almost like a garage for nerds. This got me into the awesomeness of what a computer could do. Lots of games were played, and nerdy times were had. Jumped to my awkward teen years, and I started messing with creating things for games. I created skins for characters and levels in Unreal Tournament, made levels that my family played on our LAN and Half-Life's Hammer engine, made sprite swaps and levels for Duke Nukem 3D. I worked on different small ideas in RPG Maker 2000, and also started modeling in AutoCAD 3D. Also, The Matrix came out, and that was pretty neat. These different tools that were emerging really connected with my tendency to gravitate towards creative classes like art and writing while doing horribly in every other class. One day in high school came the best and maybe the worst thing to happen. A representative from the Art Institute came to our school to talk about the video game art and design classes they offered. What followed was an enrollment in a 3-year game art program. This is where the best and worst thing happened. I was introduced to the concept that you could actually have a job making games, while slowly becoming aware that my school of choice focused more on how much money they could pump out of you than quality of education. Don't get me wrong though, I had some good teachers. Most were in traditional art fields though, as the school not only focused on game development, but everything from algebra, yes, algebra for college students, Japanese pop culture for your weeb types, traditional art, and some 3D modeling and animation courses. I spent the first year or so of my school hardly doing anything game related, and in my first level design class, the teacher taught while walking around with the Unreal Bible open and reading from it. This didn't scream confidence and knowledge in the field. Enough complaining about soul-crushing debt and poor school choices, but it was necessary to outline the rest. During my second year of the 3-year game art design program, I started my level design classes. Now, I had spent years prior working in level editors, Unreal specifically, and many other tools, so I was extremely excited to finally be combining all the things I loved. I remember when I put the first asset I made in game, shot a grenade at it and jumped inside, interacted with it. I was in love with game development from then on. All of my interests that seemed to have no direction suddenly lined up into the perfect field that I never knew existed. This is where I put more of myself into my work than others, and I feel brought me to landing a job. Yes, I went to parties, had nights where I drank too much, sorry mom and dad, and had a great time in college, but I spent a lot of time working on my craft. Where some students would spend the minimum time needed on a project, I spent hours and hours of my free time outside of class working because I loved every second of it. Part of that passion led to me seeking out critique and guidance. I knew I wasn't learning everything I could at school, so I started sharing my work on an online game artist community called Polycount. I highly recommend this place for anyone looking to get into 3D modeling for games or simply get a glimpse of development from the artist's perspective. Polycount is, especially at that time, almost all industry professionals. Obviously, the community has grown to take all kinds, but the feedback is extremely valuable, and I took it all to heart. So finals came at the end of my second year, and I had to create an environment for my level design class. I took everything I had learned from others and on my own through hours of personal non-school time, and I once again posted my work. I actually found the old thread of my work that got me noticed, but the pictures are all gone. It's way too old. Still, the link is down below if you want to see Polycount and the proof that I was once young. I did find this post from one of my friends later on at Mythic. Love you too, bud. This post is where the magical moment happened. One of the senior environment artists on Warhammer Online reached out to me about the level I had posted and asked if I would be interested in a terrain artist position. Now, I was super dumb and I said I wasn't sure. I still had a year of school left after all, and I had been convinced that getting my degree was extremely important to getting a job. I know. Shortly after this, the lead environment artist contacted me again, asking if I would be interested in taking a test for the position. I again said I wasn't sure, but I'd be open to it. At this point, I felt conflicted. I had a huge chance to do what I loved, but I had to decide if I should give up finishing school. Hindsight makes this whole thing look silly and obvious, but everyone's problems are proportionate to their current state in life, and not finishing my education was a big deal to me. So I spoke to my teacher at the time, who gave the answer I would give myself today. Are you kidding me? You're thinking about turning down a job to finish school so you can maybe get that job? Take the test, it won't hurt. Oh, well, no shit. At that point, the art director on Warhammer contacted me and asked if I'd like to test. So I said yes. It only took 4 people, 3 of which were in charge of hiring me, to convince me to apply. So I swallowed all the things trying to tell me that graduating is important and started the test. My task was to create a compelling outdoor area, and I could use the proxy trees and rocks provided or create my own. Proxy just means it's gray and no detail, and it's just a very, very basic model. I also had to sculpt the terrain either in a 3D modeling program or an engine like Unreal. All they wanted was proxy art, basically just looking for layout and world building ability. I believe I had a week to do it, I think. I decided if I was going to do the test, I was going to do everything I could, so I created everything myself and decided to also create a number of other assets and terrain textures. The following week was just a fever dream of world building and modeling. I knew they were looking for world building and composition abilities more than anything else, so that was still my main focus, but making everything else allowed me a lot of freedom to do something more interesting than others might. Kind of like now with indie games. Anyway, I worked insanely hard on the test while still working on my school projects. I finished the test in time and immediately lost all confidence in any ability I ever felt I had and sent it off to Mythic. The test was out of my hands, and so the next logical thing to do was to forget about everything and check my email every few minutes till the end of time. About 3 days later, they contacted me and said they would like to fly me out for an interview. So now my flight was booked and I was a new kind of nervous wreck. There was a point in all of this where my brain just shot back into reality and was overburdened with excitement. And I get excited even thinking about it now. I get excited when it happens to others, when it dawns on you that it's real. I put the flight confirmation code into the kiosk at the airport and it printed out my ticket. Holy crap, these people spent money on me. Someone saw enough value in my work to pay to see me in person. That's surreal for a 20-year-old still in school. Suddenly I was off on my own, heading into a world that felt like a special club. One part just growing up and another part achieving your goals. It felt really good. The interview itself was probably the most nerve-wracking one I've ever had. Not just because it was my first, but because the entire team was there interviewing me at once, packed into a small meeting room. Every other interview I've ever had is basically a day of 2 or 3 faces entering the room, then leaving to bring the next ones in until it's all over. You get time to collect yourself in between and think things over a little bit. This one had maybe 8 or 9 people. Maybe 50? It felt like 50. Asking me about my work, how I approach level design, what I see myself doing in the future, my weaknesses, my strengths. After a while, it was just a blur. The lead environment artist walked me out of the building and assured me that I did a good job, but I still asked several times in different ways if it went all right. Not long after I returned home to Phoenix, I received an envelope with my first offer letter for the video game industry, working for Mythic Entertainment on Warhammer Online Age of Reckoning. From then on, I met some amazing and talented people. I forged some strong friendships, and what the fuck? Why am I tearing up? Oh my god. What the fuck? So that's everything start to finish. I haven't gone down the memories of this in such depth in a while. I mean, I get asked this a lot on stream, and I kind of give sort of the same synopsis, like a very broken down version for people that it's kind of just this is what I did, now I'm back to work. I hadn't really gone through all the different things that I had done to get to this point. And one thing that I thought was really interesting that I wanted to share was that this passion is still there. Like going through this history made me realize how much I still love doing what I do. Even the simplest thing of making a model and giving it collision and then walking up to it in game and not being able to walk through it and being able to interact with it and things like that are really satisfying. I see a lot of parallels between the things that I wanted to do on my own to get into the game industry, and the things that I want to do now, working on my own stuff in indie. Like, part of the reason that I want to do so much myself isn't to try and be the best at anything, isn't to try and be some amazing, well-known developer, but to really combine all the things that I've loved throughout my entire life, my entire career, and make something that I really enjoy doing. And I think honestly that drive and that desire to do those things is what's going to ultimately make the things that I'm doing now a success. It's not really a hope, it's just kind of a matter of when. But yeah, I got all sentimental after going through all of this, so I just kind of wanted to share that little bit that I kind of came to realize. And in a way, I want to thank you guys for being here and giving me motivation and reasons to make these videos, because there's a group of people out there that want to be informed and know about the things that it takes to get into the game industry, or maybe what you have to do to just make games in general, and kind of the experience that working in AAA or working in indie is. So thank you for that. And thank you for being here. All right. Thank you. I hope to see you on stream. I hope to see you enjoying my games. So bye, everybody.